Activity number 1. How a right changes depending on the circumstance. The right of receiving health and other basic services can change if we see it from a perspective of main cities or rural areas. For example, I made the following chart that shows 3 main categories that I have divided this right. Category number 1. Healthcare. The healthcare in the main cities is currently available and accessible for a majority of the people, having a lot of options to choose from. On the contrary, in the rural areas, it's not that accessible and there are not many options that people can choose from. Category number 2. Education. We see that in main cities like Medellin, education is supported and people are encouraged to study. This is the case for cities like Medellin and Bogota, and they have programs that try to incentivize people who doesn't have the money to pay the proper education. So we see that in this case the right is respected. But if we see the rural areas of Colombia, we see that education doesn't have the same treatment. Schools lack supplies and teachers, and the government in general don't give enough attention to the education in rural areas. That's why people from there have to look for their education in the main cities, and this can be really difficult if they don't have the resource necessary. The government of Iván Duque have shown zero respect for human rights. This is demonstrated in the action of politicians like Guillermo Botero, Juan Diego Gómez, and Jonathan Tamayo. They have tried to make laws that hinder social protests, and they are not the only ones that have tried to violate human rights, like in the case of Darío Acevedo, the director of the Historical Memory Center. The Memory Center is an institution that was created in order to demonstrate that in Colombia there was an armed conflict, with the intention to tell the story of the victims of this conflict. The director of this institution has shown to try to censor this history. An advantage from the internet is how easy it has become to express any opinion, and of course to access any kind of information. The right of freedom of expression have taken advantage of this benefit, but they have come at disadvantage of the internet and this freedom. Now, because everyone is allowed to say anything that they want, there are some problems like bullying, harassment, and other kinds that have come with the internet. This doesn't mean that we should censor people, but this only means that we have to rethink what does it mean the freedom of expression. A video from the YouTube channel of the newspaper El Espectador called Claudia López fue atacada en una revista deportiva por ser lesbiana, which will translate to Claudia López was harassed on a magazine and a sport magazine for being a lesbian, is a video that shows how a magazine called El Pelotazo have violated the rights of privacy and no discrimination of not only the mayor of Bogotá, but also of other people. In the comic that I have created shows the numbers of the countries that is legal the same-sex marriage. There are 194 countries, and in only 24 same-sex marriage is legal. Something as simple as marriage the person that you love should not be illegal. Even when this is the tip of the iceberg, I wanted to show how this affects the rights of LGBTQ people, because we are just talking about marriage. We are not even talking about adoption. We are not talking about so many other things that it's normal for heterosexual people